All right, so get ready because today we are going like deep into some intense stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the philosophy of this guy, Austin Osman Spare.
Okay.
Now, he was an English artist and occultist,
Interesting.
and we're looking at excerpts from this book of his called The Focus of Life.
Okay.
And I gotta say, like, from what I've seen already, Spare has some seriously, like, out there ideas about desire, self-love, and, like, what even is real, you know?
Right.
So we are gonna try to, like, break down how he saw desire
Okay.
as, like, this primal force that's shaping, everything, not
Yeah.
just, like, our own lives, but the whole entire cosmos.
So, like, the universe is driven by wanting.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's a wild concept.
It is wild.
So, like, how does that actually work? I mean, what does he say about that?
Well, he doesn't really go into like a scientific explanation,
Sure.
but the way he describes it is really fascinating.
Okay.
So he's basically saying that desire is like the core energy of existence itself. It's like instead of the Big Bang being like this random explosion,
Yeah.
he's saying it was driven by this like primordial wanting. So everything that exists, like even us,
Right.
is like a result of this like cosmic desire.
Okay. I mean, I can sort of see that.
Yeah, and he doesn't just stop there.
Okay.
He goes on to say that even the things we try to avoid
Mm-hmm.
are driven by desire.
Really? Like, even our fears and stuff.
Exactly. Like even suffering, he says, is a form of desire.
Oh, so.
It's the desire to not feel pain.
Oh, okay. So it's like a negative desire.
You could put it that way, yeah.
Huh. I never thought of it like that.
It's pretty mind-bending, right?
It is. So even when we're running from something, we're still being pulled by a desire, just for the opposite, to not have something happen.
Exactly. There's no escaping desire in his worldview.
Okay, that makes his concept of sin interesting then.
Right.
Because he says there's only one sin, suffering.
Yeah, and at first that sounds kind of strange.
Yeah, like, should there be more sins than just that one?
Yeah. Right. But when you think about it in the context of desire, it makes more sense.
Okay.
Because he's not talking about sin in like the traditional religious sense.
Yeah, like breaking rules or whatever.
Exactly. For him, it's about like succumbing to that desire to avoid pain, to like not fully experience life.
Wait, so does that mean he thought feeling pain was good?
Not necessarily good, but like a necessary part of the whole spectrum of desire.
Oh, okay.
Like if you're constantly avoiding any kind of discomfort, you might also miss out on the intense joy
Yeah.
that comes from like overcoming challenges.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like Spare wants us to embrace the whole messy experience of being human.
I like that.
Yeah, and this whole idea of like embracing the full spectrum of experience,
Yeah.
it kind of ties into his concept of the I versus the self.
Okay.
Have you come across that in his writings?
I have, yeah. It's a key distinction for him.
Yeah, because he's basically saying there's like two levels of self.
Okay.
So the I is our everyday limited self.
Like the one we think of as me.
Yeah, exactly. Like the ego,
Okay.
And then there's the self with a capital S,
Gotcha.
which is this like vast unconscious reservoir of everything we could be.
Like our true potential.
Exactly. It's like the I is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right, and the self is this massive thing underneath.
Exactly.
So are you saying that a lot of what we think we should desire
Yeah.
actually comes from trying to satisfy this small I self
That's exactly what Spare's saying.
and not from this deeper self?
Right. It's about recognizing the difference between like fleeting wants,
Mm-hmm.
and those deep driving desires that come from the core of who we are.
Like what we actually truly want.
Yes. But
Yeah.
then Spare throws this curveball,
Another one.
Yeah, he says, thou art fallen into the incarnating ideas of women.
Oh, wow.
And I'm all for empowering women,
Of course.
But this seems a little, I don't know.
Out of place.
Yeah, what's he getting at here?
Well, it's definitely one of his more, let's say, thought-provoking ideas.
Yeah.
And to understand it, I think you need to understand how Spare saw creative power.
Okay.
Because for him, procreation isn't just about, like, literally having children.
Right.
It's more about how we direct our energy.
Okay.
He believed
Yeah.
that realizing the self,
So tapping into that vast potential.
exactly, that requires a certain kind of self-sufficiency.
Hmm.
And he saw merging with another person,
Okay.
even in a creative sense,
Mhm.
as diluting that power.
So it's not anti-women.
Okay.
It's more like,
Anti-dependence.
yes, like true creation comes from within,
Exactly.
not from relying on others.
Think about times you felt held back by what others expected of you.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you had this brilliant idea, but were too afraid to share it.
Hmm.
Or maybe you always end up doing what someone else wants,
Right.
not what truly excites you.
Wow.
Spare is saying that true power comes from breaking free from those external pressures
Yeah.
and owning your desires, even if they're like unconventional.
Huh. And that leads us to Spare's really radical take on self-love. Right.
Yes.
Because for him, it's not about egotism.
Okay.
It's about embracing every desire, even the ones that make us, like, uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
He even calls the greatest virtue
Oh, hey.
sincerity of desire, brave self-indulgence, and primeval sexualism.
Whoa.
Right.
That's a mouthful.
It's intense.
It is, but remember, Spare isn't advocating for just like doing whatever you want.
Right.
It's more about being radically honest with ourselves about what we truly want,
Yeah.
not what society tells us we should want.
Exactly. It's like he's saying the key to unlocking the self is to stop censoring our desires.
Yeah.
Even the ones that seem taboo or bad.
Okay, I can see how that's powerful.
It is, but how do we actually do that?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah. Is there like a step-by-step guide to embracing our primeval sexualism?
Uh-huh. I don't think so.
Okay.
Spare wasn't exactly a self-help guru, you
Yeah.
know, but he did talk about this thing called the death posture.
Oh, wow. That sounds intense.
And before you panic, it's not about like actually dying.
Okay.
It's more about silencing the conscious mind,
Okay.
that inner critic that's always telling us what we should be doing.
Right.
It's like a way to let the self express itself freely
Yeah.
without that filter of societal expectations.
So it's like hitting the mute button on all those shoulds and shouldn'ts?
Precisely.
Okay.
I can get behind that.
He even suggests just gazing at water as a way to do this.
Really?
Yeah. The idea is to find something that allows your conscious mind to quiet down so the deeper self can come through.
So I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Yeah.
Like we're driven by desire,
Right.
but we often stifle our true desires because of societal pressure or fear.
Yeah.
And by silencing that inner critic,
Mm-hmm.
we can tap into the power of our authentic selves.
Exactly.
It's almost like a process of self-discovery, like an archaeological dig into the depths of our own being.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of archaeological digs,
Spare believed that one of the most powerful tools for this excavation is our dreams.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, throughout these excerpts, he mentions dreams repeatedly,
Mm.
not just as of random events,
Yeah,
but as a direct line to the unconscious self.
I see.
It makes sense, right? Dreams are where our unfiltered desires and emotions play out. And Spare saw them as like clues to understanding our true selves.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is. So he's basically saying we should pay more attention to our dreams
Oh, exactly.
to see what they're trying to tell us about ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What else does he say about dreams?
Well, he talks about how...
So we were talking about dreams being like an archaeological dig into our unconscious, right?
Yeah, it's like they're bypassing all our defenses.
Right.
Giving us this like glimpse into the raw, unfiltered self.
You know, Spare actually shares a dream he had
Oh, yeah.
about like meticulously drawing maps
Okay.
of this country that he'd explored, and it ends up triggering this like long forgotten desire. Really?
Yeah, it makes you wonder what kind of desires are lurking in our own subconscious, right?
For sure. Like what's buried down there?
Absolutely. And it's like that saying, you know,
Yeah,
the map is not the territory.
right.
Like our conscious minds, they create these maps
Yeah.
of who we think we are,
Mhm.
but our dreams often reveal the vast, unexplored territory of the self
That's cool.
that lies beyond those maps.
So if we're trying to like wrap our heads around Spare's view of self-love,
Yeah,
maybe paying attention to our dreams could be a good place to start.
for sure.
I mean, I've definitely had dreams where I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, where did that come from?
Exactly. Spare saw dreams as this valuable tool for self-discovery,
Right.
and he encouraged us to explore those hidden meanings.
Yeah.
But he also warned about, like, the dangers of projecting our desires onto others.
What do you mean?
He had this, like, unsettling dream where he thinks he's attacking his sister.
But then it turns out to be someone else entirely.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty intense dream.
It is, right.
Yeah, like, what was he trying to say with that?
It's like a cautionary tale, I think,
Okay.
about what can happen when we're not aware of our own desires
Yeah.
and we end up like misdirecting them.
It reminds me of that saying, you know,
What's that?
when you point a finger, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you.
Exactly.
Like, take ownership.
Yeah, Spare believed that if we don't acknowledge
Okay.
and integrate our own desires,
Mm-hmm.
they can manifest in ways that are destructive.
Interesting.
He's not saying we should indulge every little whim,
Right.
but we need to understand the, underlying motivations
Yeah.
behind those desires and work with them consciously.
So, instead of trying to suppress our desires, we need to become aware of them
Yeah.
and figure out what they're trying to tell us.
Exactly. Like maybe that random craving you have for chocolate cake
Oh, yeah.
is actually a desire for more sweetness and joy in your life.
Yeah. Who knows?
Right.
That's a good point.
Spare would probably encourage you to explore that craving,
Yeah.
see what it might reveal about your deeper needs and desires.
I like that.
And speaking of exploring those deeper needs,
Okay.
remember Spare's idea about sin being linked to suffering?
Yeah.
Well, he also had some pretty radical thoughts about morality as a whole.
Oh, yeah. He didn't seem like the type to follow rules just because someone told him to.
Definitely not.
Yeah, he saw conventional morality as a way to control people and limit their self-expression.
You got it. He thought blindly following those external rules
Yeah.
could actually lead to more suffering
How so?
because it disconnects us from our own inner compass,
I never thought of it like that.
Instead of asking, what should I do?
Right.
Spare encouraged us to ask, what do I truly desire?
That's a big difference.
It is. It's a very individualistic philosophy,
Yeah.
putting the responsibility for our choices and actions squarely on our own shoulders.
No pressure. Right.
But that doesn't mean it's about being selfish
Okay.
or disregarding the needs of others.
Gotcha.
Spare believed that true self-love leads to a deeper understanding and compassion for all beings.
Interesting.
So how does all of this tie into his practice of magic?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Because Spare wasn't just a philosopher, right?
Right. He was also an occultist.
He developed his own methods for, accessing and harnessing the power of the unconscious.
Yeah, he was all about, practical application.
Exactly.
So what did that look like for him?
Well, he saw magic as a way to bridge the gap between the conscious and unconscious mind
Right.
to tap into that raw power of the self.
And he wasn't just following, established traditions.
No, not at all. He was all about creating his own methods
Wow.
based on personal experience and intuition.
So what were some of the things he did?
Well, he talks about using these things called sigils.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those.
They're like symbolic representations of a desire.
Oh.
It's almost like creating this visual mantra.
Yeah. Interesting.
And you focus on to imprint that desire onto your subconscious.
It's like you're speaking directly to your deeper self.
Exactly. Bypassing all the filters of the conscious mind.
Cool. What else?
Well, he also experimented with techniques like gazing into water or mirrors and even exploring different bodily postures and breathing exercises.
Really?
All with the aim of breaking down those barriers between the conscious and unconscious.
So he was really into the mind-body connection then.
Absolutely. The idea that our physical actions and sensations can influence our mental and emotional states.
Right. And vice versa.
Exactly.
Now, I've heard that one of the most important things for Spare's magic was belief.
That's right.
But he wasn't talking about, blindly accepting something as true.
No, it was something much deeper than that.
Yeah. What was it?
It was more about this deep, visceral conviction,
Oh.
almost a feeling that could shape reality itself.
So it wasn't just an intellectual concept?
No, not at all.
It was more about, embodying that belief with your whole being.
Precisely. He even goes as far as to say that truth concerns exactitude of belief, not reality.
Whoa, what does that even mean?
It's like he's saying the power isn't in what's objectively true,
Yeah.
but in what we truly believe with every fiber of our being.
That's deep.
It is.
So if we change our beliefs,
Yeah.
we can actually change our reality.
That's the essence of Spare's magic.
Wow.
Harnessing the power of belief to create the life we desire.
And this circles back to his emphasis on self-love, right?
It does.
Because if our beliefs are so powerful, imagine the impact of truly loving and accepting ourselves,
Yeah.
believing in our own potential.
It's huge. Right.
Yeah, it's like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Exactly.
Spare was suggesting that our beliefs about ourselves are the foundation upon which we build our reality.
And that brings us back to those dreams we were talking about.
Yeah.
Remember, Spare shared some pretty intense dreams in these excerpts.
Yeah, some of them were even violent.
Right. It's like he's showing us the raw, unfiltered power of the unconscious, but also the importance of understanding and integrating those desires.
The one that really stuck with me was the one where he's buried alive with his wife's corpse.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
only to break free and fight the devil.
Yeah, that one's a doozy.
It's intense. What do you think he was trying to say with that one?
It's like a metaphor, I think,
Oh, okay.
for the struggle to overcome our deepest fears and limitations.
So the coffin represents like
Yeah,
societal constraints.
exactly. Those limiting beliefs
Okay.
that keep us trapped.
Right.
And breaking free from it symbolizes the liberation
Yeah.
that comes from embracing our true selves.
Even the messy shadow parts.
Exactly.
And the devil.
Who do you think he represents?
Maybe like those self-sabotaging thoughts.
Yes, those inner demons.
Right.
That whisper, like, you're not good enough.
You can't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spare believed we have the power to confront those demons,
Oh.
to wrestle with them, and ultimately overcome them.
It's a process of spiritual transformation.
It is a journey toward realizing our full potential.
Sounds exhausting, to be honest.
It can be.
But also kind of exhilarating.
Right.
Like if we can face those inner demons and come out on top,
Yeah,
there's nothing we can't achieve.
that's the spirit. Remember, Spare's philosophy is ultimately about empowerment.
Okay.
He believed that we have the power to create our own reality,
Wow.
to become like the authors of our own lives.
Yeah.
But it requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to embrace the full spectrum of our being, desires, and all.
So instead of asking, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
We should be asking,
What can I learn from this desire?
how can I integrate it into a more holistic sense of self?
Exactly. It's about seeing our desires, even the ones that seem bad, as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. It's about harnessing the power of the unconscious to fuel our creative expression.
Right.
And live more authentic lives.
That's amazing.
It is. It's really powerful stuff.
So how do we actually put all this into practice? Okay, so we've been like really digging deep into Spare's ideas about desire and self-love and magic. And it's been, a wild ride.
For sure.
But I think we should talk about how to actually use these ideas,
Right, like practically.
Yeah, because it's easy to get lost in all the abstract concepts and start sounding like we're leading some kind of cult meeting. But Spare's message, I think, is actually pretty down to earth.
It is when you get down to it.
Yeah, he's basically saying, wake up, question everything.
Especially the things we take for granted.
Exactly. He even calls it the chaos of the normal.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. It's like he's suggesting that what we consider normal is actually this chaotic mess of like limiting beliefs and unexamined desires.
Right, the stuff that's holding us back.
Exactly. And it keeps us from truly living.
But how do we break free from all that?
Well, Spare believed it takes getting a little uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
Like he wants us to confront the parts of ourselves that we'd rather just ignore.
Like our shadows tied.
Exactly. Like remember that dream he had?
Which one?
Where he's wandering through a slaughterhouse?
Oh, yeah, that one was pretty vivid.
Yeah, and he's told he's a slaughterer of sheep, too.
Yikes.
Not exactly a pleasant image, right?
Not really.
But I think he's getting at the fact that we all have this shadow side, these impulses and desires that we might not want to admit to.
Right, so he's not saying those desires are bad.
No, not necessarily. It's more about recognizing that they're a part of us.
Yeah.
And trying to understand what they might be trying to tell us.
So instead of trying to be perfect, we need to acknowledge our inner demons.
Yeah, and integrate them into like more holistic sense of self.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like imagine trying to shove a beach ball underwater.
Okay.
You can keep it down there for a bit, but eventually it's going to pop back up.
Right, usually in a messy explosion.
Exactly. And Spare's suggesting that our shadow sides are like that beach ball.
Okay, I can see that.
We can try to suppress them.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of energy, and eventually they're going to come out.
Probably at the worst possible time.
Right. So how does Spare's magic fit into all of this?
That's a good question.
Because he's not just advocating for self-awareness, right?
No, he's giving us tools and techniques.
Yeah.
For actually accessing and transforming those deeper parts of ourselves.
He believed we have the power to, like, consciously shape our reality.
It's a powerful idea.
It is, and not just through our actions, but through our beliefs and desires.
And his magic was all about tapping into that power.
So like the sigils he talked about?
Yeah, the symbolic representations of a desire.
It's almost like creating a visual code for your subconscious mind.
That's a great way to put it.
Like planting a seed that you want to see grow into reality.
It's about bypassing the logical mind and communicating directly with the deeper self.
He also experimented with other techniques.
Right? Like gazing into mirrors.
Right.
Exploring different body postures, working with the breath.
It's almost like a precursor to modern practices like visualization and manifestation.
Absolutely.
But with a more esoteric flair, you could say.
Yeah, for sure.
But one of the key differences with Spare is his emphasis on belief.
Right. He believed that true belief wasn't just mental.
Yeah.
It was this visceral conviction that could actually shape reality.
So it's not just thinking it's true.
Yeah.
It's about feeling it like deep down in your bones.
Exactly. Embodying it with your whole being.
And that's where self-love is so important.
Right.
Because if we don't believe in ourselves, if we're always putting ourselves down, it's going to be a lot harder to manifest our desires.
No matter how many sigils we draw.
Exactly. It's like trying to start a fire with wet wood.
Okay.
You might have the spark, the intention, but if the foundation isn't there,
it's not going to catch.
Right. Spare's philosophy is about stepping into our power, embracing who we are, shadows and all.
He believed we have the potential to create our own reality.
Wow.
But it takes courage and self-awareness.
And a willingness to dive into the unknown.
And that's where those themes of death and rebirth come in.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
He's suggesting that real transformation involves letting go of old patterns, beliefs, even parts of ourselves that don't serve us anymore.
He believed that death, both literal and metaphorical, wasn't an ending, but a transition.
A chance to start fresh.
To shed limitations and embrace new possibilities.
It's a process that happens throughout our lives.
Not just at the very end.
Exactly, like that. That's it.
What's that?
The only constant is change.
Spare's reminding us that life is a constant cycle of death and rebirth.
And by embracing that cycle, we can unlock our full potential.
Create a reality that truly aligns with our desires.
That's the real magic of Spare's work. You know,
it's not about spells and ritual.
It's about the transformation that happens when we confront ourselves honestly.
And embrace who we are.
Desires and all.
So what would Spare say to someone listening right now thinking, this is all very interesting, but where do I even start?
I think he'd say to start with self-reflection.
Okay.
Look at your life, your desires, your fears, and ask yourself, what am I holding myself back from?
Right.
What beliefs are limiting my potential?
What would it look like to embrace all of who I am?
Without judgment or fear.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
It is.
And there's no one right way to do it.
But Spare would say, be curious, experiment, never stop questioning.
And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Be patient, embrace the messiness, enjoy the ride.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into Austin Osman Spare.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We hope this has sparked your curiosity.
And inspired you to embrace your own path of self-discovery.
And hey, maybe you'll even start seeing some sigils in your dreams.
Sweet dreams, everybody.
Take care.